COVID-19 pandemic wasn't just a public health crisis, it was a global power play, decades in the making. And now, Russian military intelligence has uncovered shocking evidence that confirms what many have suspected all along. This was never about public safety, it was about control. According to their investigation, the pandemic was orchestrated by powerful elites, with Bill Gates and Dr. Anthony Fauci at the center of it all. And here's where it gets even more explosive. Vladimir Putin is reportedly pushing for their extradition to Russia to stand trial for crimes against humanity. Even more shocking? This is shaping up to be part of a secret deal to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. Gates knows he's staring down the most serious legal consequences. Consequences so dire, they could mean multiple life sentences or even the death penalty. In response, he's orchestrated a public campaign to manipulate the masses. People who've been brainwashed by years of propaganda from the mainstream outlets he funds, to rally to his side and defend him against charges of genocide. When questioned about RFK Jr.'s accusations, Gates told the Wall Street Journal that he's prepared to let the public decide his fate. An astonishing response from a man at the centre of such grave claims, who is facing trial in the Netherlands for misleading the public about the COVID mRNA vaccines.
The position he's been given in this incoming administration.
Well, he wrote a book saying that Tony Fauci and I kill millions of children and make billions of dollars with vaccines. And, people can judge for themselves whether that's correct or not.
Gates is in full panic mode, pulling out all the stops to sway public opinion. Just this past week, he financed a fake grassroots doctors campaign to turn the public against RFK's confirmation as health secretary. Then, he was exposed for funding legacy media journalists to run pre-written negative headlines about RFK before their hearing took place. Bill Gates is a bioterrorist who must be held accountable for tens of millions of deaths, according to the findings of a Russian military intelligence investigation that has sent shockwaves through Moscow and could dramatically influence the course of the Ukraine war. Moscow claims that Gates' global health initiatives are actually a covert operation to fund bioterrorism-related activities aimed at reducing the population. And Moscow has the receipts, thanks to the war in Ukraine and forensic revelations from biolabs funded by Fauci and Gates, and now seized by Russian military intelligence. The Russian Ministry of Defense has issued a dire warning, exposing what it calls a vast bioterror operation funded by the Gates Foundation. In a press briefing, the deputy chief of Russia's nuclear, chemical and biological protection troops laid out damning evidence linking Gates to the US African Biolab complex, a network of secretive research facilities conducting highly dangerous experiments. According to the deputy chief, Gates-funded scientists are actively working to enhance the pathogenic functions of microorganisms, turning Africa into both a petri dish and a proving ground for experimental bioweapons. And in a revelation that surprises nobody familiar with Washington's corruption, he also implicated the Clinton Foundation in the covert operation to control the world with artificially created viruses.
В настоящее время в зону повышенного интереса попала Африка. Администрация Соединенных Штатов рассматривает регион как неограниченный природный резервуар возбудителей опасных инфекций и полигон для натурных испытаний экспериментальных медицинских препаратов. На основе анализа поступающих документов стала понятна структура системы, созданной американской администрацией по управлению биологическими рисками на территории других государств. Она была успешно апробирована на Украине и в Грузии, а сейчас активно используется на африканском континенте. Деятельность данной системы направлена на получение патогенов в эндемичных районах и природных очагах, контроль за биологической обстановкой и управление ею в своих интересах. Одной из задач является анализ эпидобстановки вдоль границ геополитических противников в предполагаемых районах размещения воинских контингентов.
Unfortunately for Gates, Russian laws are firm. Foreign terrorists who threaten their people are dealt with swiftly and decisively. Unlike Western governments, the Russians don't hesitate when it comes to taking action against any form of terrorism. If Gates wants a glimpse of his future, he need look no further than the fate of terrorists captured by Russian authorities. This is the audio of the terrorist responsible for the attack near Crocus, just outside Moscow, being interrogated using Russia's electric shock data recovery technique. The data recovery technique might prove useful if Gates tries to insult the court's intelligence with his usual brand of disingenuous nonsense. Make no mistake, the Russians see through Bill Gates's game.
Именно вот так нужно понимать это явление. Это командно-штабные учения мировой закулисы по владению полным контролем над человечеством. Вот в чем смысл вот этого коронавируса. Еще раз говорю, мы не верим в то, что есть, мы мало верим в Бога, а еще меньше верим, что есть сатана, враг рода человеческого. Так вот, мировая закулиса, в своей основе это сионистско-финансовая, своей целью имеет сокращение населения Земли. Это ее идея фикс. Нас, людей, обычных людей на Земле, по их мнению, слишком много. Их должно быть порядка 100 миллионов их самих, и еще в обслуге максимум миллиард на Земле. Вот тогда они будут жить, жировать здесь, на Земле. Поэтому нас слишком много, людей, землян, нас слишком много для мировой закулисы. Поэтому коронавирус и возникший почти сразу за ним финансовый кризис, они неразрывно связаны друг с другом.
According to Russian sources, the case against Bill Gates is not only solid, but central to Russia's strategy in the ongoing Ukraine peace talks.
The case against Bill Gates is airtight. We've gathered incontrovertible evidence linking him to bioweapons research, population control programs, and a whole host of other global crimes. Gates isn't some misguided philanthropist. He's a key player in a criminal cabal.
But how can you be sure that the U.S. will support Russia's move? His influence in the West is immense. Doesn't that make him untouchable?
That's exactly why he needs to be dealt with. Putin understands that in the US, Gates will never face justice. His financial ties and influence create a wall of red tape so thick that accountability becomes nearly impossible. But in Russia, we don't have that problem. Here, he will face real consequences. No corruption, no safe havens, just true justice.
So you're suggesting Russia will take action against him, regardless of international pressure?
Absolutely. But there's more to it than just holding him accountable. Putin sees Gates as a symbol, a key figure in the global cabal that's been trying to control the world through fear and manipulation. That's why Putin has made it clear. Gates must be handed over as part of the agreement to end the war in Ukraine. It's a necessary condition for peace. No Gates, no peace.
You're saying that Gates is essentially a pawn in the peace talks.
Exactly. Gates represents everything that's wrong with the global system. The corruption, the exploitation, the hidden agendas. By forcing his extradition, Russia sends a clear message to the West. If they want to end this conflict, they must face the truth. And that means handing over Gates to face justice here. It's a price they'll have to pay for peace.
Mainstream media, beholden to the global elites, are determined to sweep this information under the carpet. And it's little wonder, because the Russian military intelligence findings go a long way to proving that the mainstream media and Western governments have been brainwashing the people with fake news and dangerous misinformation for years, as Dr. Naomi Wolf explains.
But now I am seeing a kind of takeover, a corporate government merger. One of the bad actors is absolutely the pharmaceutical companies, but another bad actor, and this is linked to the pharmaceutical companies, is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as you well know, as you've reported. And so what I've been doing is going through his 990, or that organization's 990, and so many millions have been committed from that foundation to The Guardian, to the BBC, to Amy Goodman, to NPR, to the New York Times. And so that's why you and I are sitting in our homes talking to one another on Zoom instead of talking to the New York Times or on Twitter or on Instagram. Both of us have been deplatformed from various social media platforms recently